So good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. Some of you know me, some of you don't, so I'm going to give you a very brief introduction. My name is Thomas Wohl. I've been a licensed broker since 1993. It's been a long time. I started to practice in 1994. I was with a local company, no names. I don't think I can say names, right? I was a local company. And I switched to a national company about 3 years later to Wohl Banker. And from Wohl Banker in 1999, I went to Remax. I spent 20 years with Remax. I became the #1 agent in the Raleigh area, #1 agent in Wake County, #1 agent in the state of North Carolina, I think 3 years in a row, 2 for sure, but 3 years in a row, I think. I was ranked number 41 in the country out of 110,000 agents with Remax. And when opportunity came, I actually joined EXP, which I couldn't be happier. I think was an awesome career change for me, but we can talk about that some other time. One of the reasons prompted me to do a class, because throughout my years, when I get started, I noticed that all of us do business differently. Right? And a lot of times, some of you are brand new. Some of you have been in business for a while. Some of you struggle, some of you don't. But what it doesn't change is the basics. But I like to go back to the basics for us to how to build our business to move forward, right? In 1994, when I first started, it didn't take much to get hired by anybody, and I don't think it takes much today. But it takes you want to be a real estate broker? Great. You can. An interview was, okay, great. You have a license, great. You can be hired. The training back in 1994 was as follows. Come to the class. Here is the contract. Here is how you fill it out. Wear your name tag to make sure everybody knows you, and good luck. I think things have changed, and it wasn't really a training I was looking for, but I didn't know any better. I didn't know how to bring in business. I didn't know how to build a business. I didn't know much about it, so that's why we have reset the bad habits or habits we have already. Restart, because we can restart our career at no matter what point it is. And relearn, because some of the things we already know, whether they're correct or not, we need to learn how to get the business back on track, or how to do it better moving forward, right? So thank you all for being on time, because I pay a lot of attention to details, right? May I have a slide? Uh-oh. Stop. Let's go back. Thank you.
Like right now, I'm in between appointments and gigs in Southern California. I'm just pissed off about this idea of showing up, and so many people just don't. Like right now, I'm in between appointments and gigs in Southern California.
I'm 15, 20 minutes late. So I proposed the terms of closing the doors, because if you cannot give yourself the respect of showing up on time for your own business, and I'm giving my free time to help you how to make money, then I think we have a irreconcilable difference in theory of how to conduct business, right? So can I please have a next slide? Failure is not an option, right? It's not an option, because if you think failure is okay, then we don't need to be here. Failure is not an option, because failure, all of us have at some point, and I'll be the first to say I have failed many, many times over. I think all of us have. And if you think you haven't failed, then I'd like to learn from you, because all of us have something we failed at. Maybe I failed at not to dress properly. Maybe I failed at talking too much. Maybe I failed at not to have enough knowledge, not marketing myself, not to be on time. Whatever that is, I'm the first to admit that I have, And if you have, now you know what not to do, right? So we can build on that. Some of us who are brand new in the business, you're going to have a very, very hard start, right? Especially in this market when we have no inventory. Why? Because you have no leads, you have no sales, you have no closings. That means you have no income. So when you have no income, what does it tell you? When you're a real estate broker and you have no income, where is it going to lead you? It means that you are out of business, right? Because it's all fine and dandy that we show up every day, but then what? Then what do we do next? So one of the reasons I want to make sure that we understand the theory, because some of us, and I see you guys are here, but I see a lot of people do not show up on time. I don't see many people in a business. I'm in the office usually between 9 and 10 o'clock. I could come earlier without a question. But a lot of people don't show up, which means you do not show up to your business. That means what exactly everybody is doing. The theory behind it is you are selling. But the problem is if your numbers don't show that, that means you have no discipline of showing up every day, learning from others. One of the reasons I like to be in the office every day because, well, yes, I have a lot of accolades. I've been there for 27 years, on and on. There's always something I can learn from somebody, right? From my peers. Everybody has something to share. Everybody has an idea maybe I didn't think of. So after 27 years, I am still learning bits and pieces of the business because the business is shifting. When I was in business, there was no social media, for example. Cell phones, none of that, right? Beepers, yes, we had beepers. So, times are changing and times are shifting, and unless we shift with time, right, we're not going to be successful. But also, I don't think we're going to be successful if you don't understand the basic principles of our business. So, I think all of you would agree with that statement that we don't need to survive, we need to thrive. Surviving meaning you have one sales here and there, you have a lead, you're running around with that lead whether they're qualified or not. It only means you make you feel better because now I have something to do, so let's do it and let's run to it because I'm a real estate broker, right? If you have a proper foundation, you can differentiate those leads for somebody who's just looking, not serious, not qualified, they just want to waste your time, literally, because a lot of people out there, right? A lot of times, if you don't know the right questions to ask, right? If you don't know your market, how would you know that those people are serious or not? Honestly, you don't, right? If somebody would call me and tell him they're looking for a house, new construction in Cary, under $400,000, I would scratch my head and said, by the way, can you please show me where you've seen that house? I know that because it don't exist. But if you don't know the market, guess what's going to happen? You said, oh, no problem. Let me take your name and number, and let me call you back with some MLS searches. I don't think so. I don't think that's how it works. So let's see how we're going to succeed together, right? The reason I say together, because if you don't succeed, I failed. I failed to help you. And remember my other slide was, failure is what? Not an option. Exactly, not an option. Just remember that. So a couple of things we're going to talk about today, not all of them, in great details, is build your database, right? That's basic. What do we do as agents? What do we chase? Anybody? Leads, more leads. So success is number one. Success will bring your financial rewards. But when we chase leads, it means what? We're not focusing on a basic to build a business, but we're focusing on tomorrow to make money. And it's important, don't get me wrong, after a while. But if a lead buys that house, then what you do next? Reset, another lead. Reset, another lead. That's our business. So unless you have a foundation to build on, how can you be successful? Chasing leads, sure, you can throw money at the problem. You can actually pay advertising, you can buy leads. Is that really solving your issue? In my opinion, it isn't. The other thing we're going to talk about is prospecting, right? Prospecting is very important because that's a daily activity. That includes me. after 27 years. And my business operates 90% on a referral base. I still need to prospect because each year the referrals are changing. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. That means you have to prospect to bring in more business constantly, right? Constantly. Open houses. Some of us are new. It's a wonderful way to actually get the word out that you are in real estate. And we're going to talk about how to conduct an open house, what to do, especially what not to do, right? Market knowledge. Some of us in here are local agents. Local agents meaning local to your market, which is a wonderful strength to have, because if you're focusing on a certain neighborhood, and we're going to talk about how, you can be that local expert and you can get quite a bit of business out of that. But what about the rest? We have 1.1 million people in the triangle, I think maybe more. So if you focus in a neighborhood with, 1,000 people, 500 people, that in my opinion greatly limits your ability of what to do. So market knowledge, you need to understand the older houses, how it's constructed. You need to actually understand what is new construction, where you can find it, what are the positives, what are the negatives, right? You need to understand what are the price points, and you can do that by learning MLS data, which I bet many of you don't even know where to download that from, right? Because here is what I personally do when I talk to a buyer or a seller, and I'm going to give a good try today. How is the market today? Great. How is the market today? Awesome. How is the market today? Excellent. How is the market today? How is the market today?
Depends where you buyer or seller.
So what the point I try to prove is everybody has what? An opinion. It based on what? So market is good based on what? So what is the average appreciation in Cary? Oh, it's very good. The market is still very good, right? So if you don't know your market, if you don't see it, unless you run across an investor, is it a good time to invest today? Probably not, right? Because the market is sky high and the rents haven't increased, didn't keep up with appreciation. But if you're looking for a house for yourself, it's probably a very good investment whether the market goes up or down the next 5 years, because in 10 years from now, it's going to be up no matter what you do. So it's only a time and matter, but you need to understand, because you need to be an expert to know and give them somebody an advice where the market is, right? We're also going to talk about how to promote and how to invest in yourself. Why? Because if you don't invest yourself, if you don't, who is going to do that for you? Nobody. So you're going to be saying, oh my God, oh poor me. I'm the best agent with a great knowledge, or probably nobody knows me. Yeah, that would be a problem. So when you invest yourself, you're going to talk about personal promotion at some point, not today, but at some point, right? We're going to talk about how you can actually be known as an expert real estate broker among your peers. Daily scheduling. Ooh, who would like to elaborate on that? Daily schedule, what does it mean? Does anybody have a schedule from 8 to 8? Anyone? Okay, that's one. I know you do. Why is it important? Because I like you to know what you're doing in the next 12 hours in your life. If you don't even know what you're doing, how you can expect results, right? I mean, I know I get up in the morning at 6:30 or 7 o'clock. I also know I'm non-functional for about 45 minutes. So I actually contemplate life. I have coffee. Then 8 o'clock, my day starts. Doesn't mean my phone doesn't start ringing at 7, but my day starts. What do I do with my day? Sometimes for a half an hour, I keep contemplating life. Is it waste of time? Maybe. Sometimes I listen to inspirational videos. Sometimes I'm listening to and think about what I have to do for a day. So about 8:45, I start getting to the office, right? And I'm usually here. I'm usually here because I have a rare ability or inability not to be able to work from home. I get distracted all the time. All of us are different, so I'm not going to tell you that you have to be here all the time. If you can work from home, it's great, but it's also good to come to the office to get ideas from others, right? Some of my day goes into prospecting. Some of my days goes into doing absolutely nothing. It's very, very rare. But I'm always preparing. I'm always looking at the market. Why? Because I do feel like that if you take your finger off the pulse, you don't have the knowledge to advise a buyer. Why, or a seller? Why is it important? Because there are more and more people in real estate, correct? So there's a lot of people getting into real estate. And everybody is great. Well, not really. But how are you going to be different from others and doing better what they're doing? Because anybody can do real estate, correct? You can get a license, you can be real estate. Then what? You can be different by doing things the right way to build your business. Because if you look on Zillow, there are millions of agents. Realtor.com, millions of agents. How are you going to be different from your competition? Sometimes I get asked that question. My answer is probably very, very different than yours. But you need to find that answer. How and why are you different than your colleagues? Does anybody know what my line is? People who know me for a long time, they know that. It's very simple. I work harder. I work harder than my competition. It's very, very true. And some people say, Thomas, that's great, but you need to work smarter. Maybe I'm not that smart, but I can work hard. And in my opinion, hard work always do better than a smart work if you don't put in your time. So we're going to also talk about personal goals. Anybody has a goal personally? Nobody? I do. Is the only person who has a personal goal. Oh, more? Great. What does it entail? Do you have an income you like to make? Sure. Do you have a sales volume you like to make? You want to have time to spend with your family and loved ones? You want to have freedom? You can have any of that, right? But you have to plan for it. Things don't happen by accident, not in my opinion. Maybe you get a lead by accident, but it's not going to actually change your life, right? So you're going to talk about personal goals and accountability. Oh my goodness. Accountability, what does it mean? Anybody? Accountability in my book, meaning exactly what I just said for the last 20 minutes. You show up on time, you make your daily schedule, you invest in yourself, right? Sometimes accountability is very, very hard when you do business on your own. A lot of the members in here are within a team, and a team will give you a structure to help you with your daily activities. Or I help you basically how to get the leads, because you don't have to go out and prospecting on your own, because a lot of the teams will provide that for you. But you have to be here and make those phone calls and learn how to make them, right? So you're going to also talk about scripts, right? How you talk to a buyer or when to call. I see a lot of team members who are calling leads at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I was scratching my head, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, if I'm working, who the heck would pick up the phone? So I left 100 messages. That's fantastic, but you haven't talked to a single person. So you're going to talk about how you actually have an accountability to yourself. And if you struggle with that, none of us are perfect, then maybe it's a good idea to team up with somebody you know to hold you accountable for your action and vice versa. So we can actually practice that, right? Plan and focus. We need to plan our daily goals. We need to plan our business, right? Because if you don't plan our business, the result's going to be what? Let's say you're brand new. And you're brand new, and you called mom, you called dad, you called your cousins, your brothers, God knows whom else, right? And you have 25 sales. And you said, oh my God, I have a fantastic first year. That's excellent. What's next? Right? You're going to be chasing leads because now you don't have the basics. When I started, I had a slow start because I didn't do things right. I didn't know people, so I have to build that. There are certain ways you can and certain ways you shouldn't. I actually, when I was young, when I was filling up my gas tank, went to pay for it, I asked the clerk whether they want to buy a house. They looked at me kind of funny, but guess what? I had a conversation with him. Yet to find out that back then it was, I don't know, $4.50 an hour. Then it didn't qualify for anything. But guess what? I did something I know that I shouldn't be doing, right? So I actually have planned nothing. I was reacting to something I thought was right. So planning is important because when you plan out your day, when you plan out your business, when you plan out your accountability, right? When you plan out your open houses, you plan out your personal promotion, it will result in what? A successful real estate person. I said person, not man or woman. Person, real estate person. You want to be successful, to me, in my opinion, everybody has one. These are very good basics to think about and follow. A very good basic we're going to discuss. So, let's talk about databases, right? Because what a lot of people neglect is the database. Last time I had a class, I asked a very tricky question, who to include? Right? And people just looked at me. I was like, it's a very simple answer. Everybody. Everybody you know. And ladies, you have a great advantage over me. Anybody can tell me why? No, well, I'm very approachable. but if you read between the lines, I cannot go to a salon and have a conversation with anybody because that would think I'm crazy. The reason I mean everybody because all of you have, some of you have children, right? The children have what? Teachers, right? You actually can go to get your hair done. You can get your nails done. You can go shoe shop. I don't care what it is, right? You need to actually have your database built of everybody you know. When I say everybody, I meant everybody, right? You can have an AC repair person who comes to you, even if you live in an apartment, right? You need to get to know that person. You know, my HVAC guy made over 100K last year. He's a prime candidate to buy a house. Right? I build a relationship. Obviously, relationship is not, by the way, I'm a real estate broker. Here is my card, right? If you think about buying a house, give them some value, have a conversation. But I think it's very, very important for you to include that. I have seen many agents after a couple of years, they're stuck for that reason because they never had that. Had a colleague of mine, long story short, I was doing relocation for a GlaxoSmithKline. Then GlaxoSmithKline merged. I was one of the 9 agents who were actually doing their relocation. And a person who actually planned the company, who actually took the business, she became a real estate agent herself. Highly successful one. She knew a lot of people. And after 2 years, first year, second year, volume is like that. After the second year, that was nothing more. Why? Because some of us will sell a house to our brothers or cousins, family members, their friends, and then what? Right? So my career always took off very slowly. Now, slow, in my opinion, wins the race. But it took off slowly because I built my business, right? Whether I knew it or not, I built my business on a solid foundation. Therefore, I give a very, very good service, and I try to be the best I can be. And I hope you will do the same. So, next slide, please. A lot of people don't know enough people, and it is quite all right, right? I'm Hungarian, so when I came in 1990, I knew my dad, I knew you, but but other than that, I didn't know a single soul because, you know, out of NC State, right, I didn't know anybody how to do this. I didn't know anything. So today, you have a great advantage. You have an internet. On the internet, you have different groups you can join, genuinely join. Once again, the whole idea is not for you to go in. So by the way, I'm a real estate broker. Hey, I'm Thomas. And after 5 minutes, you're passing your cards around, right? That is not how. But if you have an interest, people with common interest, right, normally will talk to you about what you do for a living. Can anybody give me an answer if I ask you what you do for a living? Anybody like to volunteer? I'm sorry. It's only my opinion. I never say I'm a real estate broker. I try not to say that. You know why? Because if you look around, you can find 10 of them. So what would be, in your opinion, a better way to say that?
I am in the real estate business.
You can also say that, yes. Very close. Very, very close, yes. I usually... It's okay. It's not the right or wrong answer to that. I'm just asking because I like to have a little bit of brainstorming over it.
I said, like service providing, serving others to help with their home, home service, or buying, listing, investment.
Correct.
Building future.
Or you can also be in a business to find people their dream home, right? And the reason it's dream home because everybody can sell a house. What every buyer want to find is their dream home with a white picket fence, whatever you think, it's fine. So if I'm selling houses, right, anybody can do that, right? Everybody has something what you have because you can look on Zillow. But do you know how to actually find people a dream home, right? A lot of times I add that I am pretty certain that you're familiar with the term real estate, right? I have a rare ability to find homes that are maybe off the market so I can actually serve my clients better versus just look on Zillow, right? So there's a lot of little things you can add, but I certainly do that. By the way, oh, real estate, sure. Here is my card, right? Let them ask you for the card because if you give them all that information up front, okay, that sounds good. They take your card and you never hear from them. But when people ask for your card because they find you that interesting and that knowledgeable, can I please have your card? Yes, but that's the whole idea, right? So when we talk about local meetups or Facebook interest groups, anybody on any of those groups? 2 of you, 3 of you? Right? I think it's a great idea because I think it's a great way to build a business, right? I am unique because I haven't joined any kind of a Hungarian meetup groups. That's a personal reason. I should be doing that, but I haven't. But if you have an interest, a cultural interest, right? Whatever that might be, it's a very, very good way to meet people. Because even that person is not buying real estate. Maybe they're going to remember you. Oh my God, he's a great dude. I'm going to send you my friend who's looking for a house. You don't know that, right? If you go to church, right, it's also a wonderful place to meet people. I'm not saying, once again, to keep passing around your card, but when you talk to people, right, at some point, they're going to ask you, so what do you do for a living? Then you can start that conversation. I used to go to church, forgive me if you are still going. I used to go to church and I had a ton of business out of singles group, right? Because people were very interested in knowing how I can help them with the same knowledge, right? So I think it's important for you to consider when you're looking at your database, right? When I said everybody, I really meant everybody. Now we're going to also talk about how to organize your database and how to value your database. So in my opinion, what has worked for me, in my database, when I wrote down everybody's name and address, right? How would they know that you are a real estate broker? So I'm very old school. I would like you to invest between $10 to $12 and go to Target and buy those little cards. What do you call them? Postcards. Yes, I know what they call them. Just kidding. Little postcards, because what I like you to do is send handwritten notes to your friends or whomever, colleagues, whomever there is, just saying, by the way, so great hearing from you. Wanted to let you know that I'm in real estate. I'm your local resource and expert. And you can include your card. And you don't have to say, by the way, refer me to anybody you know, right? You can just say, by the way, here is the announcement. What do we do next? We call them a week later. We call them because, why you want to call those people? Because a lot of people get postcards on and on. I get a ton of them in my neighborhood. I don't even know who those people are. But I remember if somebody sent me an announcement that is handwritten with their business card, doesn't talk about real estate, right? And the reason you need to call them, because by the way, it has been years. Did you get my announcement? No, I haven't. Oh my goodness, you know what I sent to you? Tell me, what is it? Right? I sent you an announcement because I became a real estate broker. And since you know me for 20 years, I want to make sure you can rely on my expertise to help you or whomever you know, right? So this, take it very, very seriously, please. No text messages or emails. Why? Because I get hundreds of them. I have hundreds of text messages every day because it's a new thing apparently. I mean, it's a great, but you get it all the time. So if you're going to be so impersonal to the person you know for 10 years, What kind of reward are you expecting? Reward you with what? The same. Thanks. Okay, that's great. I'm in business, and no reply. Because you never connected with that person. So don't underestimate a personal connection. Especially some of us who have been in Raleigh for a very, very long time and know a ton of people, don't underestimate, because while the new generation might be very tech savvy, right? I've been interviewed a lot by millennials between 20 and 30, because many of them looking for whom? An expert. And unless you become that expert, right, you will not have that business. Unless you promote yourself, unless you put yourself out, unless you do the core basics for people to know that you're in business, that you're going to be chasing leads the rest of your life, and hopefully in 20 years, you're going to have enough leads who actually liked you that you can actually build a business. I think 20 years is too long, right? That's why it's important to get off the good start. And if you have done that, then you need to revisit. It's interesting because when I get busy with my life, right, I do forget to call my clients, my database, right? So when I have Saturday or Sunday, I do call them, and you know what is so interesting about that? What I notice, their phone rings twice, and they pick up the phone. Why is that? Because they probably have left them a good impression. Probably they know I'm calling about something, and the way I call about something is to talk to them, genuinely talk to them, right? And it's a difference between asking for business all the time, although you should. But I also think it's important for them that you let them know that you are a real estate broker, but don't be overzealous. Hey, Susan, how you doing? By the way, you know anybody who's looking forward to buy and sell real estate? No, but it's good hearing from you. Oh, by the way, I'm busy, right? So make sure, in my opinion, have a genuine conversation and remind them, even if you have to remind them. Just want to make sure you know you haven't forgotten me, because I'm in business. I could sure use your references. As you know, I am new. It's okay to say that. I am still new to this, although I studied a lot to be an expert. I would greatly appreciate if you could help me to support my business. Can you please help me? Who's going to say no? I haven't gotten that yet. Can you please help me? Because I would love to know if you know of anybody who's looking to buy or sell, right? So I think there's a certain way you can ask, but it's not a weekly phone call. It's not a daily phone call. Don't call people. Don't nag the crap out of people. Just make sure you genuinely make what? You remember your daily task we just talked about? Maybe it should be a rotation of once a month phone call, or once every 2 months, right? So a lot of little things you can do. Another thing I have noticed that a lot of people have failed to do because we're just too busy chasing leads. When I go to a neighborhood and I see a beautiful home, sometimes I drop in the same car that I bought for $12, 50 of them, and saying, by the way, I love your home. It looks great from outside. If you ever think about moving, please let me know. I might have a buyer for you, right? It doesn't mean they're going to call you tomorrow, but guess what? You're putting your name out people to remember, because you never know when they go online on Facebook, and they're so curious because they haven't gotten a postcard from anybody like that, right? On Facebook, and look you up, wow, you know, this guy does a lot of business, very likable, have good reviews, right? 5 years from now, 3 years from now, you never know. They might call you. I have had business like that, right? So rate, contact, and harvest. Who like to harvest? I love harvesting. Harvesting meaning what? You have little seeds. That means you can eat bread. The reason it's important for you to rate your contacts, because some of your contacts is going to be your air conditioning guy, right? It's probably a good contact, but it's not somebody you're going to be chatting with every week. Or your car mechanic, right? But who is your core contact, right? Your core content, people you know personally and know them very well. And let's say you have 100 person in your database, you need to rate them and shut it down to about 20 of them. Only 20 of them. Because 100 of them cannot be your best friends and cannot be your best clients. But those people who actually like you, right, will refer the most business to you, right? it's a possibility always that people you just met through a church group or you met through whatever Facebook group it is, they might send you a business here and there. That's great. But with time, you will know you're going to have clients in your database are going to be a core referral client. I have clients who love me. They haven't moved in 20 years, but they keep sending me people they work with in their neighborhood, right? People actually mention real estate. You have to call Thomas, right? Why? Because I stayed in touch with them, right? I actually harvested that relationship to make sure that whenever they need, they call me, right? Whatever they need, because guess who are we? Experts, real estate experts. I always tell my clients that before you do an addition, change your air conditioning, whatever you do, there's only one number you need to know. You know whose number is that? Mine. Why? Because you become an expert. And even if they don't know a plumber, even if they don't know an HVAC person, I will find that for them. And I will call them, here is a person I vetted, you need to call. Guess who you just become? Their new best friend and somebody they can rely on for professional advice. So now you're an expert, not only in real estate, but also anything subject related to real estate. And guess what happens when you keep referring those plumbers and those HVAC companies? They will get to know your name. Sometimes you get to know those technicians or those plumbers, right? And plumbers need to live somewhere. Air-conditioned person also needs to live somewhere. So don't disregard because you see somebody in muddy boots that probably can't afford the house. Many of them have a six-figure income. So make sure you know that whomever you get in touch with or in contact with is your potential whom? Referral source or a potential client. Because even if somebody said, I really appreciate you, we bought a house 2 years ago, I always ask them, which agent? Which agent did you buy a house from? You know what usually happens? I'm not sure I remember his or her name. There's a reason. Because somebody just sold them a house. But they're going to remember your name because you're going to make a much better impression, right? Many people don't even know what their agent's name is after a year they bought a house. Why? Because agents don't stay in touch with them, right? So your database have to know, constantly be reminded that you are in business, right? I do it with the postcards, and I do it with every 3 months. I send them a little postcard just to make sure they know. And I don't talk about real estate, really. I don't. I talk about the fall. Sometimes I put in the market is hot, is certain a seller's market. Guess what is my tagline? And you're welcome to steal it. Or, sorry, copy it for Halloween. The market is spooky. Trust an expert. Right? It's funny. And it's not, oh my God, by the way, I'm number one, buy a house from me. Me. Don't do that, right? Make sure you do it genuinely, but make sure you stay in touch with them because they need to know that you're in business. There will be people, includes my database, who buys houses from you and something changes and a year later they don't even remember your name because they don't care. And it's okay. That will be 10% of your database. But once again, if you're just chasing leads without a database, that's what you're going to fall back on. Or let's go back, the leads. Right? Because you remember, we're going to be talking about prospecting, right? Then your database, now we have what? 2 major sources you can rely on to get more business. So, next, don't forget to ask for business. But you have to ask for business in a very polite way, not in an intrusive way, right? Because, bless you, because sometimes when I mention don't be the overzealous realtor, I've seen a couple of my colleagues when I have coffee at Starbucks, they go there not to have coffee, to pass their business card around like Tic Tacs. I wouldn't even remember who these guys are, and they say, get in line and talk about something that to me. I was in line. Oh, you have a nice suit? Yeah, thank you, man. Oh, by the way, I don't care, by the way, because I'm not even awake. So you can talk to people genuinely, right, to make sure they take interest in you versus the other way around. Because if they take interest in you, they will ask, oh, by the way, what do you do for a living? And the answer is, you're in a business to find what? People's dream home. Yeah, correct. Because it sounds different. Now, if you say, I'm a real estate broker, but I'm different than most, that's also funny. How is it different? Well, many people don't have an accent. You know, so whatever fits your personality doesn't mean you have to say exactly what I say, but you have to be creatively different, right? Because if you're just selling houses, then anybody can sell houses and you're just dime a dozen. I try not to be one, right? So we also talked about how to ask for business from your database. So let's say you're calling your best friend, and your best friend say, by the way, I'm so happy that you called because me and my husband were thinking about, you know, buying a brand new house because our house is getting a little old. And we were thinking about actually buying a brand new house in North Raleigh, close to Crabtree. Oh, great. Let me look for it where it is. Don't. It doesn't exist. So if you don't know your market, if you don't understand the market, what you're going to do next? You're going to call them back and say, by the way, I'm sorry, but that doesn't exist. Then how the heck did you not have a conversation with that person to say, I understand completely what you're looking for. I would love to buy a new home at that price point. By the way, did you see that house on Zillow? You can maybe just send that to me because it's probably a very unique opportunity that I can look it up for you. Because I know in the back of my head, there is no way. I mean, there is no way that exists. Then what are you going to ask next? Why brand new? Right? Why are you looking for a brand new house? Oh, because we don't want to deal with a lot of maintenance, right? I understand. But how about if there is a house in that vicinity that is 8 years old, high-end custom built? Does any of you know what the difference is in maintenance? Answer, it should be nothing. Because your roof probably going to last 30 years, your air conditioning another 10, or at least 5. A water heater, people said, oh, we just replaced our water heater. That's $1,500 next. You need to know those things because if you don't, you're going to be caught off guard. You're going to be chasing your tail with information by not knowing your own market. Remember, what are we? Experts. If you're not experts, then how do you expect people to trust you and trust your opinion, right? So we're going to preview homes. Anybody did that? Yes. Why do you think it's important? Other than obvious what I just said. Because a lot of times when you preview homes, you not only know the market, you also understand different construction practices, right? For example, I'm going to single you out. My apologies. You do a lot of business in Durham. So let's say downtown Durham is a very unique market, and downtown Durham 10 years ago was selling for $25,000 for houses were built 1930s, 1940s, right? A lot of them have been bulldozed or rebuilt, right? Does anybody know what it takes to rebuild a house? If you're walking with your client and it's a flip, can you spot what the differences are in construction practices or what needs to be upgraded, what isn't, and what is normal, what isn't? Because when you go into a house, $1 million custom house, yeah, you can refer to, oh my God, it's a beautiful kitchen. It is. How about if you walk in a 1940s, 900 square feet house? You know anything about siding, lead, asbestos, original windows, how they work? It's just good to have a conversation because we're also going to have a lot of your younger friends. What they're going to say, oh my God, I love a fixer-upper. I like to buy a fixer-upper, right? What does that mean? Do you have skills to fix it up? No, we just think about painting. Okay. What I'm saying is people have a very, very different idea of what they think they want or what they think it means. So you will have to be an expert to guide them, right? The second one is study areas. Why? Because if you're a local expert and you have a client in Chapel Hill, right? If you're in Durham, you probably know Chapel Hill, but agents in Cary, I did relocation for a long time, and I was driving clients around between Raleigh, Durham, Cary, and Chapel Hill. And there were agents in Cary who got lost on Six Forks Road because they had no clue where they were. They were asking if they could follow me on a tour. You want to be that person? Or basically you have your GPS and have no clue where you're going? I actually wrote an article about being a taxi cab driver versus a real estate agent. There was not much difference other than you paid someone to do the task and open up the doors, because you have no use for buyers if you don't even know where you're going or where you are, right? Let's say you go to a neighborhood and people going to know more about the neighborhood sometimes than you do, because they have all the time in the world to look up the areas, the Whole Foods, right? The builders. Why is it important? Maybe not important, but at least you know that you can tell them that. That builder is actually good custom builders with reliable quality, right? You need to know those things, because even if they don't ask, now they don't have to ask because you told them already. So I think it's important for you to know the different areas, because different areas are selling differently. Downtown Raleigh, right? Very different than Cary. I do a lot of business in Cary. And when I sold a $550,000 house in Cary, right? When people ask me about values or resale or appreciation, because remember, I know the numbers already, right? I always ask, are you looking for a house for the schools? Looking for the house for long term, or looking for a house for an investment? Appreciation, what are we looking for? And sometimes they're going to give you answers that sounds great, whatever. But what I bring up to them, by the way, what's the most important thing to you in real estate? Because a lot of people want to have a good investment. Remember, good investment. What's the most important thing to you in real estate, right? And people said, well, price. Well, it's somewhat true, but it's not. Size? No. School district? No. What's the number one thing in real estate you should always consider? Yes. What's number two? Yes. What's number three? It's the location, right? It's never the size of the house. It's never the age of the house. It's never anything other than a location. So what the example I bring up to them is, by the way, I bought a house in 2006, a year before the recession, downtown Raleigh. That was a 1950s, 1,600 square foot ranch with no garage. And I'm so happy that I bought it, because I doubled the value net in 10 years. And people look at that, what? The same thing downtown Durham. Same thing has happened. But I don't think it happened in Cary. I don't see a single house that doubled its value. Now they're catching up to where they were. So if people are looking for the best school district, that's a perfect buy. If people are looking for the best appreciation, it's probably not. So you always have to know, in my opinion, why and what people are looking for. Obviously, you don't need to make them fill out a test. But you can ask subtle questions, because nobody want to lose money. Everybody want to have a good deal. On this market, do you actually get a good deal, by the way? Anybody? Probably not. But I would also add that maybe so if you're looking at a long-term investment. Because if you're looking to stay in a house for 3 years, I don't have a crystal ball. I do not know how the market going to be. It's a high possibility, because we're very high, we see multiple offers, the market will come down. So if you need to sell in 3 years, it might be a problem. So then what advice would I give those sellers or buyers? I want to make sure we buy the right property to do what? That if the market crashes, to do what? That we can rent it, right? Because you see that back in 2008, that a lot of the houses that couldn't sell went in foreclosure, short sale, or it was up for rent. A lot of them. Guess once again, you give them advice or what to look for, they need to follow. So price ranges and features, days in a market, why is it important? It's important because if a client sends me a house, which I happen to have a client of mine relocating from California, and basically say, oh my God, I love this house, it's great, it's close to everything. How come it's been on the market for 578 days? And I almost fell off my chair. I was like, for how long? 578 days. What do you think is wrong with that? Everything. I know it's everything because this past weekend, I actually have sold my listing. Anybody who's a listing agent and listening, everybody gets multiple offers if you have the house properly priced and properly presented. So I have seen offers that I lost out on. I'm first to admit, I wasn't aggressive enough for a reason, because I do know the numbers. Somebody actually have beaten me out by 35,000, and I was 40,000 above already on an asking price. And the house wasn't undervalued. It was valued for a normal market. Today, we're just not in a normal market. So you need to know that. Because if you keep making an excuse why you have lost it, right? Number one, that you don't know the market. And if you think everything is okay with the house after 511 days, then there's something wrong with you, which means you don't know the market. I think something wrong with the house if it's over 30 days or 2 weeks. And usually something is, regardless of price point. Because anything priced correctly on the market, it will sell. So knowing the price point, anybody knows what is the highest appreciation and what that is on our market? Anybody? What is the highest appreciation for which price point on this market?
Like what price range?
Yes.
Like I would say 200,000 for appreciation.
Kind of, sort of. Anybody else? And you don't have to know that, I'm just asking. Because if I have a buyer who's looking for a house between 275 and 325, my advice is buckle up. Because the price point had 14% appreciation from year to year, 14%. It had a higher appreciation than houses in a 500s or 600s. Why is that? Because that mechanic I was telling you about, instead of renting at 2.75% interest rate, now they can actually have a mortgage lesser than they're paying in rent. Would you like to be that person who tell them that? Any of you? I would be. You'll be a hero, right? So you need to buy sooner than later, because if a 15% appreciation or 14% keeps going up, guess what? You're going to price yourself out of the market. But if you tell them you need to buy a house tomorrow, you what? Pushy. But if you have the numbers to show them, this is why, it's not only my opinion, although I'm an expert, look at the numbers, let's make a plan, let's execute the plan to your time frame. Now you have something to work towards to, right? Versus to say, oh, the market is hot, things are selling fast. Sure, everybody can see that. How good are you, right? So absorption rate. Do you know what that means? Well, kind of, sort of, yes and no. That was a great answer, by the way. What I also like to check, that if in a certain price point, that is not another house comes in the market tomorrow, how long is it going to take to eat up the inventory? Is it 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, 9 months, right? If it's 9 months, this is definitely not a seller's market. If it's less than 3 months, it's definitely a seller's market. I think currently at 300, we probably have maybe 30 to 60 days, give or take. You need to know that, because if you have a client to say, by the way, I'm kind of busy, but next weekend we can go see in houses, what you going to tell them? We can certainly do that. Let's hope that something else is going to come up, because I promise you the houses you see today will not be on the market. Why would you say that? I don't know. Look at the numbers. And you can actually check how fast those houses are selling on what price points, right? You can have that data. They don't, you do. Once again, guess who you are and what you become? An expert, a real estate expert, because now you're telling them something they didn't know. What they know is what? The market is hot, things are selling fast. How fast? Anybody? Sometimes hours, sometimes days. What else are you going to check for them? Anybody? So days on the market, yes. So we check the days they're selling very fast. What else are we checking? That's number 2, yes. How many listings coming up? So basically you're going to check if in 1 month in the particular area you have 1 listing, you probably don't want to wait a week to see it, right? But if you have 25 listings coming up, I know it's not the case, then you have time. That's very good. What else? Anyone? What I like to check is this. I like to, for the price point and for the area, I like to check closed sales. Do you know why? Because I need to know for the last 6 months how many houses came on the market to predict how many houses might be coming on the market. But also I like to give them one data they're going to be shocked. What is that data that most people are going to say, oh my gosh, I didn't know? What is that? Price? Yes, but no. So, yes, I need to tell them, by the way, in your price point, the houses are selling 104%. Oh, what does that mean? Well, if you're 300, houses selling 4% above in average. In average. Some of them selling at 100, lucky you, but some selling somewhere at 108, That means somebody bid 20 grand above or 18 grand above whatever the house was. If that keeps happening, guess what you're going to be doing? Price yourself out of the market. Therefore, we need to look at houses sooner or later, not because I'm in a hurry. I have plenty of time for you. I want to make sure that you don't make that mistake, and I'm going to help you with knowledge to make sure that you don't, right? So those are the ideas, in my opinion, you need to know and need to understand. And even if people don't ask for that, right, there are going to be people who will. There are going to be people who are super analytic. I had a client of mine who sits on a National Atomic Energy Board, a nuclear engineer. How do you think he was?
Good, fun times.
Yeah, fun. A super nice person, awesome to work with, but super analytical, right? He needs to know every single details. And because we went to the house 3 times, because the light fixtures weren't in the right place, he couldn't see himself living in there because he couldn't picture how that's gonna look. But that's a type of person you need to understand why. It's a type of person you need to understand the analytical to their fault, right? And they're going to digest that data. I'm going to ask you every single question. If you don't know that, what good are you to them? Answer is nothing. So highly likely you're going to say, I don't know if you guys have gotten that email yet. I have. We really appreciate your time. You're great. We're going to go in a different direction. But thank you very much for all the time you spent. Why is that? Because the perception is you cannot serve that purpose. Whether they didn't tell you what they're looking for, happens all the time. You didn't perform well, didn't have enough time, or just people just being people. I'm not going to say it on camera what I think of that, but that's a different story, right? So you have to understand the psyche of buyers, right? The reason I talk about the stats, the reason I talk about that, because when I go to a buyer's presentation and next course we're going to talk about how to put one together, right? I ask the same question I just asked you. And none of you know the answer, fortunately. Because everybody knows the answer, I'm no longer unique, right? So the question was, how is the market today? And everybody would answer, great and good, and all of you are correct. But if I'm the expert, I can give you the answer to that question by understanding and knowing the numbers, right? So we talked about market stats. Another thing I like to do, I like to give my clients, and you can download, by the way, everybody, you can download this from the MLS. It's not secret. I didn't discover anything. You can download that from the MLS. I look at it because let's say a buyer comes in from Arkansas, or buyer comes in from California. Do you think there's a big difference in perception of what things are, how much things cost, right? Huge difference. But when you actually have a market stats, because a California market maybe today is going down, maybe it's going up, not my business, I don't know, neither I should care. But what I need to know and show those clients how the market was last year and how it changed for this year, right? Why? Because if people coming down from Boston and think our sleepy southern market is slow, right? I have news for them. But if you tell them I have news for you, that's great, that's your opinion once again. But here is the 12 pages to show you in a very nice manner so you can understand how the market has changed. And because you know the market, because you have market knowledge, you can explain to them why, what COVID did to our market, right? A year from now, maybe it's going to be different, but today you need to understand how to be an expert and understand the market currently, correct? So does anybody know what the differences are between new construction and custom? And you don't have, please.
Am I the only one who's?
No, that's okay. That is not a right or wrong answer to that.
I don't know specifically what new construction is. The builders like Ryan Homes, custom builders are the ones that you can pick everything from the house versus new construction. My understanding from that is you pretty much just pick the interior of the house, not
the exterior, because it has been predetermined, yes.
that's right.
So that's part of it. That is correct. What I have seen over the years, while I think non-custom builders get much better, using better materials, right? Why does it matter? Because let's say your client who can afford $300 looking for a new house is going to go to Youngsville, right? And you can only find a house in Youngsville. Do you think it's going to be the same quality that you find maybe in Cary or in Apex in North Raleigh? Probably not. But do you think if you can find an acre lot, a brand new house in Youngsville, you think it's a good value? Probably yes, because you cannot buy that anywhere else. That's how your market knowledge goes into understanding construction. The reason I mentioned custom and non-custom, right? Because I think when you're previewing houses, you're going to see the subtle differences. For example, flooring. For example, molding. Sometimes it is siding, right? So you need to know, I need to understand, because a lot of the things people are going to ask, oh, I don't like the color. One of my favorite things to do is when I go to a house and let's say the vinyl siding, I stop everybody and I say, by the way, how do you like this awesome yellow? And people say, oh my God, I hate it. And I make a joke, by the way, if you do, I'm sorry, but we cannot see the house without. And they look at me like, oh, what? Well, the joke or the point I try to make, that on vinyl siding, you really cannot change that. You cannot paint that. If somebody says, not my preference, but it's okay with me, not an issue. Sometimes you have the same conversation with siding when you have masonite siding, or you have hardy board siding, or you have brick siding, right? Then what do you tell your clients? It can be painted, sure. How often does it need to be painted? Maybe after 6 to 8 years, depending how good your painter is. I had clients who were only looking for a white brick house. So they disregarded every single house on the market unless they were white. That means what? Somebody was smart painting it white. Because brick can be painted, you need to know that. What cannot be done is undo. You cannot undo the painting. It has to be painted and you have to keep painting it. So you have to ask that you're looking for a beautiful brick home, that somebody spent $30,000 in it for no maintenance. So while you can paint it, what you did, you're going to have to keep maintaining it, right? Some people don't think about that, right? And it's not that you need to lecture them, you need to educate them. What is the reason looking for a brick house? Low maintenance, so don't paint at them, right? So there's a lot of things you can add to be an expert and add to your knowledge. And to your point, I do think it's important for somebody to learn the custom builders and non-custom builders, because there's a huge difference, and also there's a huge difference in clientele who prefers custom versus non-custom. It's not that one is better than the other, it's people prefers a different style of homes. One of the things I keep hearing lately, and maybe it's a different trend, when I see a beautiful custom house and I see a beautiful 3.5-inch side-finished hardwoods, right? And I had the same thing in my house from 1950. So for 70 years, it was flawless. You can refinish them, you can restain them. It's going to last longer than we're going to last. But guess what? The planks are too small. I like to have these wide planks floors, right? So you need to know there is no way that you can actually have that in hardwoods because they don't make it. The 7-inch wide planks, usually LVP, right? Or actually some kind of an engineering flooring. There is nothing wrong with that, it's just a preference. But if people actually think about having an LVP for looks or for dogs, it's an excellent choice. But if people are looking for it because it's wider, but they think about, just changing it later, is probably a wrong choice. So you always have to ask, for example, if you have an engineered product, and let's say that is engineered hardwoods and have 2 huge labs, would you ever recommend that for them? I wouldn't. Do you know why? Because I'm going to get a phone call 2 years later that say, oh my God, the floors are completely ruined. We need to actually finish. And you're going to say, well, you really can't. So you need to spend about $8,000 to replace them. I wish I knew that when I bought it. Whose job is that to tell them? Yours. Even if they don't have a dog, it don't matter. You need to educate them. Because the last phone call I want to get, you should have told me, right? Why? Because you're supposed to be what? An expert. And you're going to get those phone calls, like it or not. I wish I knew. Well, they didn't know because the number one never told you. And number 2, you never thought about telling them because back then they didn't have 3 dogs. They weigh 100 pounds each. But it's always a good idea to tell somebody to know and understand what they're buying. So instead of you becoming that punching bag, you're becoming their hero because you educated them, you stay in touch with them, and basically doing everything in your power to help them as an expert, a reliable resource. How are we doing on time? Sorry. Wow. All right. So if it's 12:15, I'm going to leave it at this slide. This is just the beginning of our conversation. There are going to be 3 more classes. We're going to dive into each subject more and more deep. So by the time we get there, you're going to be a well-prepared, well-rounded real estate expert.